Hello and welcome to Jim and Ben's Movie Adventures. My name is Ben and with me is...
Jim, the Jimster.
Or as I like to say, the Chuck Anomalous of my life.
Yes, and I don't know what that means.
You watched the movie. He's the bad guy.
Is he?
Yeah, they say his name like twice. Anomalous.
Who's the bad? Wait, what bad guy? There was the evil Bill and Ted's were the bad guy. Oh, you mean the bald guy?
The guy who built the evil Bill and Ted's.
Okay, look, I'm gonna just level with you. I didn't love this.
I've retained none of this because I enjoyed it not.
Saying I didn't enjoy it at all. I'm just like, it was fine.
You're trying to end rock and roll because you're the gym teacher of my life.
Well, look, why don't you tell the fine listeners about the plot of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which was, of course, our film for the week.
All right. There's a guy called Bill. There's a guy called Ted. They go on this bogus journey. That journey, you say, what is it? Here we go. In the future, where everything is excellent. Don't forget about that. It's all excellent. George Carlin, or Rufus, is teaching a class to these excellent kids. And then an evil man named Anomalous breaks in and shoots a bunch of people and says he's going to ruin Bill and Ted because he hates the future they currently live in because it's not excellent by his standards. So he sends some evil Bill and Ted robots back in time to ruin their lives. By ruin their lives, he means straight up murder them. So he sends them back in time, and Rufus kind of gets lost in the time streams. And he sends them back, and they trick them with the princesses, and they kill Bill and Ted. And then the robots take over their life, and the princesses hate them, and all this sort of stuff. I skipped a thing. There's a battle of the bands, and if they don't win it, they won't make history. Okay, so Bill and Ted are dead. Death, who's the best character in this movie, is like, hey, if you beat me in a game, I'll let you live. And they decide not to play him in a game, and they give him a wedgie instead. And they run away. And through some shenanigans with death chasing them, they end up in heaven. And they meet God. And God's like, hey, you can go back and save the world if you do all these things. And they have to play death in all these games. And they beat death in Twister and Battleship and all these fun things. And then they meet this really cool engineer named Station who helps them build good robots of themselves to beat the bad robots of themselves. And then they do that just as the Battle of the Bands is about to happen. And then God Gave Rock and Roll to You plays roll credits.
Okay. Look, that is what happened. Truth be told. Do you know what I mean? Like,
hey guys, anyone listening to this podcast, in the last week, I've watched over 30 hours of Star Wars movies. And I watched Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey before that. So my brain is a little fried. So
I'm from the wars.
From the wars. I'm doing my best. Quick facts. Released in 1991. Excellent Journey was 89. So it's a pretty quick turnaround for a sequel. Directed by Peter Hewitt, who did the Thunderbirds movie and the Garfield movie with Bill Murray. Screenplay by Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, who both did the original Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Starring Keanu Reeves, Alex Winters, William Sadler, who is Death, Joss Ackland, George Carlin, and Tony Cox as Station! Budget of $20 million, box office of $38 million. Yeah, cool. So, Jim, what'd you think?
It's funny, when we first started talking about Bill and Ted on this podcast, because obviously we've already done Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And at the time, I remember saying to you, oh, cool, I've seen this film like a fair bit. And then I was like, on the same cast, I was like, oh, actually, I've seen Bogus Journey. Bogus Journey is the one I've seen. I haven't seen this one. I realized I've never seen Bogus Journey after we watched Bogus Journey. I thought every part that I thought I'd seen was actually from Excellent Adventure. So now that I've seen Bogus Journey, look, it sounds terrible because I understand that both these films are cult classics, but I was kind of meh about Bogus Journey. Like I was I enjoyed the first one. It was charming and a little bit offbeat and weird, but the second one, I don't know that I laughed in the second one because it was functionally just the same thing. It's just you substitute the time travel section of the middle from the first one for the afterlife section in the
Yeah.
second one, and basically it's the same movie. But again, it was like, because it's not a laugh a minute comedy, it's kind of it's just a bit fun, and you let it wash over you. I was a little twitchy in this one, and I wasn't necessarily, fully committed.
Of the two sequels that we've watched in order, of this and Gremlins 2, what do you like better?
This, I really didn't like Gremlins 2. Like this is not bad. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just more of the same. It wasn't particularly
I agree
unique
with you.
to me.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is the better of the two movies that we've watched so far. And I think it's because it's fresh, the first one. Like it's new. Like if you haven't seen it before, like it's something that you're not kind of ready for. Like you think you're going to get this slacker comedy, and you get this kind of verbose, funny, weird, time travel-y, sci-fi comedy. And then when you get the second movie, you get them calling back to the first movie, and then you get the same verbose language that isn't probably written as well, and then you get the spiritual or afterlife journey versus the time travel journey. So yeah, I get it, but the reason I like this movie so much is my grandparents, for some reason, owned this on VHS. And so whenever I went to their place, I had a choice of watching Dolph Lundgren's Masters of the Universe or Bill and Ted 2.
I'm guessing both of them got a lot of airtime.
They certainly did. I reckon my cousin probably went to a video store during a sale once, and they got those two movies. So, but yeah, no, I do like this movie a lot. But the first is better.
I guess, look, if I was to sort of look at it, I did find some things interesting about it. So, I guess I'll mention them here. Like, I don't know, it's a podcast where we talk about the movie.
I mean, is it really what we do with this?
I guess I'll mention some things that I found interesting. So, in my real life, not this this internet life, I teach film and television, and I was incredibly surprised to see at the halfway point of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, the visual language of the film starts to change, and it begins to reference a film movement from 1920s Germany, of all places. And I was just like, I'm sorry, what? Did we just do a U-turn and start, referencing German expressionism within this, kind of surfer? And the answer is yes. Yes, we did. Like, so
this is when I was just like heaven, yeah?
No, when they go to hell, actually.
Okay. Oh,
so
yes.
when they go to hell, like which was, again, a very Bill and Ted-esque sequence, but, the production design all changes when they're in these sort of, almost surrealist dream sequences. Everything becomes kind of blocky and, very sort of stylized in its look. There's lots of really linear, hard lines, in all of the architecture. And I was looking at it and I was going, this is German expressionism, like, which is like, your old sort of Nosferatu from 1922, or, the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, like just stuff that, again, I was just not expecting to see in the sequel to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And I was also like, what's going on? Like, who's the target demo for this? Is it like patrons of, film movements from Germany from 100 years ago? What is happening here? So, but on the other hand, that's kind of Bill and Ted, right? Like, to just take something super obscure and be like, let's reference that.
It fits within its absurdist nature, right? Like, it's very much like anachronisms and absurdities and things that shouldn't fit somehow all fit within this film based on its structure and its characters' acceptance of their situation. Like, Bill and Ted just accept whatever situation they're in. Like, oh, devil dude, oh, God dude, oh, death dude. Like, they're not frightened, they're not surprised. It's like the biggest you're going to get is like a whoa. Like,
Yeah.
and because they go with the flow, as an audience member, you're able to go with the flow too. Even if you don't get the reference, you get that it's out of place.
Yeah, and look, I know that it's very clear to me that your favorite part of the film is obviously William Sadler's death. Not the actor's death, but he plays the character of Death, right?
Yes.
And I would completely agree with that. He is a fantastically written character, and then he's played very well at the same time. And of course, I don't know about you, but I only really know of William Sadler as the villain from Die Hard 2. So
yeah.
to see him,
the
him
worst
go
Die Hard until the new ones.
To see him sort of go from that, which he did pretty much just before this, that incredibly villainous, evil, hard sort of turn to just high comedy, was pretty fun. That's something that was fairly joyous. He doesn't rock up for a little while in the movie, but once he's on, he sort of sticks with the heroes, and it's pretty cool.
So another big departure this movie, probably the big departure that this movie makes from the original, is actual villains. Not just Ted's dad, who is now married to Missy.
That was pretty funny.
Just like, and Bill's dad just standing in the background.
I know, it's so harsh, but it's quite funny. Like, in terms of tropes, like, they're just like, what else could happen here? It's like this.
I want to see Face the Music just to see where Missy is in her life. But sorry, what was I saying? Mental blank. Oh, the big change is villains. This movie has villains. The first movie we discussed didn't really have villains. It looked like they were going to try and set up Napoleon, but really they concentrated on the journey and the characters of Bill and Ted, and at worst, kind of Ted's dad was the obstacle or the villain for them. In this, we have evil Bill and Ted, and we have Denomulus, who turns out to be Rufus's gym teacher from back in the day, who from within the system tries to bring it down.
And I would say that, like, it was interesting because I found the robot Bill and Ted to be particularly disturbing. They really are fairly evil. Like, they're not, in some ways it's almost not that humorous because they're really quite terrible with pretty much everything. Goofy. No, they're not goofy. They're quite sinister. And I was quite happy to see them go at the end of the film, because I was like, you guys, you make me uncomfortable. I don't love what's happening here. It was sort of an interesting thing where when we see the evil robot Bill and Ted on screen together, there are some very not well hidden body doubles. Like
well, they didn't have that Star Wars magic of face swapping people yet.
Well, it's pretty standard to sort of, hide over the shoulder shots or whatever from behind by using stand-ins. But there are a couple of shots where I was looking at it and I wasn't pausing or rewinding or anything like that. I was literally like, I'm like, that's supposed to be Keanu Reeves. And that's Keanu Reeves' stand-in, whose face looks nothing like him in the same shot, right? Like, they haven't really bothered to do, any visual effects. Now, it's not all the time, but it was enough for me to notice on a single watch through. So, it's
it's definitely, I've seen this movie a few times, and probably not a lot since I've been like a movie watching adult, like someone who's paying attention to movies. And they're not trying very hard. They're like, we've got to shoot this scene. Let's just get it out of the way. Like they're not blocking it particularly well in places and things like that. But yeah, it is kind of like, it is what it is. Like it's in a movie that it honestly doesn't matter. And I mean, it's a bit weird to say that about any movie. Like they made a mistake. and it's an easy mistake they shouldn't have made. But you're like, it's Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
There was some just super weird stuff in this movie too, like just super weird, like
weirder than I remembered.
Like Station. Can we just talk about Station for a second? Like this strange cosmic alien that can clone itself and merge together and is kind of like a cockroach and kind of like Alf. And I was just sort of like, what is this? What am I watching right now? How is this occurring?
So, I think of myself as a philosophical person. I don't always speak philosophically. I usually speak to the joke. But I do believe this movie at times is trying to kind of say some philosophical things. And I think this is one of them. And they've wrapped it up in this weird rapper that is Station, who is the greatest engineer in the universe, is his kind of role. And it is set in a line in this movie of, what, you didn't expect the greatest engineer in the universe to be human. And it's kind of this like, the world around us, the universe around us is bigger than we accept as human beings. We look at the world most times as, this is it. This is our cocoon. This is our structure. This is our thing. And I think it was just kind of pushing out to the universe as a wider, unknowable place. And Station was this movie's answer to the unknowable. And I know that sounds probably more, I'm giving this movie more credit than it deserves, but that's how I felt. Like that whole kind of heaven scene of where they kind of go up to heaven and all that sort of stuff. It's kind of just like their world of going like, hey, there's more to it than you get. And that was their way of showing it. I don't know if you agree by your face. You don't.
I just okay, cool. Feels like a stretch to me.
You just don't get it, man.
I probably don't. Do you know what I mean? Like, I probably don't. I'm not really going to sit here and pretend like,
It's challenging our perception. Like, we expect things to be in a certain rapper, and Station is not that rapper. He's his own thing.
I guess, I tell you what else was not in the same rapper. Did they recast the princesses in this movie?
Yes, they did, I believe.
Why would they do that? Because the performance was functionally the same as it was the first time.
Yeah, I mean, they had some more lines. Let me. I'll as we go, I'll look it up. But yeah, no, they do look markedly different.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure. I was watching the movie, and again, I didn't bother to look it up, which makes us the best podcast ever. That I've done all of this crazy research where I'm like, hey, did they recast those two roles for pretty much no reason? Because it kind of feels like they recast those roles for no reason.
Let's have a look here. Princess Joanne appearances. I think it's the same people. Actresses, first appearance. No, it's they've been portrayed. We haven't been there yet by 4 different people. So in the movies, there are 3 different people, like in all 3. So
oh, really? So that those princess roles are different actresses in Bill and Ted 1 versus 2 versus 3.
At least the first one I've looked up, it definitely is. Oh, and there's a cartoon, which is the 4th one. I didn't realize there was a cartoon. But yeah, they're different. There you go.
I don't know why you would do that, because it doesn't seem worth it, unless they didn't want to come back, I guess,
Or they could have been doing other stuff, and they were such a small function of both movies that it didn't really matter, as long as one was blonde and one was brunette.
So I think, we've almost exhausted things that I find interesting or liked about this movie, but I have one last thing, and I'm sure you've got other stuff as well. So some of our podcasts go for like 50 minutes, but I'm just telling you, I'm nearing the finish line personally, so you better have something. But like,
I have a little bit. I have a little bit more.
But I liked the boots in the future. They were some cool boots, because in the future they've decided that the aesthetic is everything is oversized and seemingly made of, primary colored styrofoam. And I'm like, I dig it. I could get on board with that,
So
that was the last thing. That was it. That was the positive thing that I have to say.
Cool boots. So, you know how every once in a while I say, hey, to make a cool movie, you should take this thing from this movie. Is your thing from this movie Boots?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
I want to say this movie confirmed, I think, a theory that I had from the first movie, in that time travel gives you, like, destroys vision. Like so in the first movie, I brought up that, hey, you know, every time the phone booth comes through, everyone puts on their sunglasses except Bill and Ted because they don't know to. They do the same thing in this movie. Even the robots put on their glasses when the time travel machine comes through. So I think there is a sinister undertone to time travel, and that it has a side effect of destroying people's eyeballs. I just want to say I've confirmed that theory by watching this movie.
Great.
So
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that we took
yeah.
the time for that detour.
Hey, I just want to say that this movie continues my theory that time travel is detrimental to the human body. So this movie, they did the classic kind of 80s, early 90s thing. And after this movie itself, specifically, they spun off like a TV show, comic books, and characters and that sort of thing. And I've recently, not this one, but I've recently been going back and watching those kind of old style of 90s spin-off TV shows, and they are awful. And awful in a way that I can't wait to watch this one. But they were really popular. So the movies themselves made money. And they have continued to make money. But the kind of spin-off and the cultural zeitgeist of these movies, I think, is even more impactful than that. The last thing I have to bring up about this is I don't know how to put this. I love the end of this movie in a way that I shouldn't. The end of this movie is dumb. Like, it's super dumb. Like, the end of this movie is literally them kind of going, hey, we've got this battle of the bands. We actually still don't know how to play music. And so they use... so Rufus turns out to be the hot music promoter and has been in disguise the whole time. And then they take the time machine, they go into the future, I want to say, learn to play music, come back and play not an original song. They play God Gave Rock and Roll to You. But everything about that ending hits for me. It hits like my emotional core for some reason.
That is so weird.
Right? Like, oh my God, they've got kids now and they're still together and they're playing music. I teared up, and I don't know if that tells you where I am in life right now. Or
It might, it might, like, cause I didn't tear up. I didn't have the tear ducts working.
but you're cheering for the bully in Toy Story. Like, we'll get to that one day, but yeah. Spoilers,
Hopefully
folks.
not on this podcast. I don't like Toy Story.
Oh gosh, you really don't. But yeah, look, it is not as good as the first. It's still very enjoyable to me. It's in that category of movies. I think this one, Bogus Journey, and things like, and they're not the same quality movies at all, but things like Groundhog Day, and they're movies I can just put on and watch, and I don't have to think. And now that I'm thinking about it, they all involve time travel in some way. So maybe, again, that says something about my preferences.
I feel like we're really just time traveling to your childhood, Ben. I think that's what this is really all about.
Groundhog Day is not a childhood movie, but yes, you're right. It is that nostalgia factor, right? Like, I do really love using this podcast to go back and watch movies that I liked as a kid and to see if I still like them. And both Bill and Ted's, I do like them.
It's interesting because, I haven't seen the third one, and the third one obviously only came out in the last few years. It was I don't know, 2 years from the time of recording this podcast or something like that. Maybe even less. But it's weird because even though I just said, I didn't love the second one, now that I've seen it, I'm actually quite curious to be like, Okay, I think the third one's going to be good. I just have this feeling that I'm really going to enjoy number three after the
Yeah.
distance, because I think the big issue really that I had with the second one was, it was functionally the same story, set 2 years after the first one. So whereas this time they've obviously got somewhere to go story wise because it's been like 30 years,
Well,
and
here's the deal. I remember watching the trailer when it first came out. I have a feeling they're still in the same spot that we left them and that they haven't progressed in their life. And I think it's more of an arrested development kind of story. Like, they haven't grown. So I am curious too. I'm guessing, but yeah.
But even that's an interesting story
Yeah.
given the time that's elapsed, So, but
Yeah.
look, I'm sure we'll find out one day. I'm sure you will pick it on this podcast, and that we'll do this threequel of Bill and Ted Face the Music.
I do have a perverse sense of fun by picking sequels and threequels for some reason. I have really enjoyed like choosing follow-up movies to movies you've already watched, so it's gonna happen for sure.
It's true. I enjoy it less, just for the record.
You heard it here first. Jim hates sequels.
I didn't say that. In fact, if you've exhausted your facts, I have a little.
Are you going to make me watch another sequel before we watch the original?
Well, I'm actually going to leave it up to you, Ben. So, are you ready to segue gracefully into what our next film is going to be?
So here it is, people. The crux of this podcast. The time where we inflict movies upon each other. Drum roll, please, Jim. What's my choice?
Well, I'm going to let you choose because I'm not going to tell you what this film series is, but I will tell you this. There are 5 films, okay? 5. And they are of vastly different quality. Okay? So
I'm going to choice of 1 to 5.
You have a choice of 1 to 5. And I want to know how you're going to game this because we could end up watching a film that's pretty good, or we could end up watching a film that is absolute rubbish, right?
Can I ask a question?
You can.
Have I seen these movies?
I don't know.
5
and if
movies
you have
in a series that I haven't seen.
And if you have, I doubt you've seen all of them.
Oh.
So this is, as to the quality of what we're going to watch this time, it really is up to you. So you have a choice between film 1 to 5 of this particular series. And then once you've picked your number, I will tell you which it is.
Can you give me a genre? What genre are these movies?
Nope.
Can you give me something?
No.
I'm having heart palpitations. Don't do this.
I want this to be a blind test.
Can you tell me? Here's a simple question that probably won't really. What's the time frame between when like the first movie was released and the 5th movie?
Sure. So I could tell you that. So
Yeah.
we're early 2000s
Okay.
to 2016.
That's a pretty quick turnaround for 5 movies, and I have a feeling why I know some of these are real bad.
Well, we're waiting on
here's
you.
the deal. I have a guess about what these movies are. I'm going to pick the number before I guess. If it is, hang on, let me count the movies. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is the series of movies, the last 2 movies, a book split in 2?
I'm not telling you anything. You have
That
to
narrows it down to 2,
choose.
though.
You choose a number between 1 and 5.
3.
3. You have seen this one. We're watching Underworld: Rise of the Lycans.
I'm so excited. I'm real glad it's not the one with the characters I don't know in it. Oh my gosh.
I felt pretty good about that.
Michael
that
Sheen?
It is. It's Michael Sheen. Yeah. I didn't think you were going to pick 3. I didn't think it was going to be Underworld: Rise of the Lycans, but it is. So
I was real worried that for some reason you'd gone into a twisted Jim cocoon and we were going to watch a Twilight movie.
I could kind of feel that when you're like, the last one split in 2. I'm like, I said at least one of them was good, Ben. Like,
Yeah, New Moon rocks. Jackie. All right, so Rise of the Lycans. Can I change my pick?
Nope. I wanted this to be a pure exercise. I didn't want to game it. I didn't want to be like they get worse or they get better.
Because you're stoked to watch any of these.
It's true. I did game it in that way.
For those of you who don't know, I think we've brought it up before. Jim has an unhealthy love of the Underworld movies.
It's not like they're all good. Do you know what I mean? It's just
look. I'm going to throw it out there. I don't think any of them are what you'd call classic cinema.
I just kind of like them, you know.
They're from the ones I've watched, which are like, I think I've definitely seen the first 3. I don't know if I've seen 4 and 5. Actually, I don't know. They're dumb fun. Like they take existing tropes, they kind of twist them on their head. They add this kind of gothic bullets hell kind of thing. The third one though doesn't have that because it's set in a kind of a different timey period, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
It's a prequel, so but look, we'll get into all that on the next cast. Until then, Ben, why don't you tell our gentle listeners where they can locate our wonderful product?
I've got an idea. I have not run this past Jim, but I want to create, as they say, the parlance of the social media influencer engagement. So here's my deal. If anyone leaves a comment on both our YouTube and our Apple iTunes for the podcast and the video and identifies that those comments are connected, within reason, I'll let them pick one of my movie picks.
Oh.
So Jim won't know what the movie is. Well, I'll contact you independently. But if anyone listening to this wants to leave a comment on both our YouTube and our thing and contact me maybe through our Instagram and say I've done it, I'll do it. So to do that though, you have to go to our YouTube channel, which is Jim and Ben's Movie Adventures, where you can watch all our podcasts, leave comments, like, subscribe, all that stuff. You can also go and listen to our podcasts on Apple and Spotify under Jim and Ben's Movie Adventures, where again, iTunes, you can rate and comment and we can see those comments. And then lastly, if you want to say hello to us, see what we're watching, see what's coming up, maybe see a couple of interesting movie posters, you can go over to our Instagram, which is Jim and Ben, with underscores between the Jim, the and the Ben. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Leave those comments, help me pick a movie, and I'm really looking forward to next week's podcast with Underworld 3. I just forgot its subtitle again.
Rise of the Lycans.
Thanks very much, guys, and be excellent to each other.
Indeed. Bye-bye.